I used to think betrayal had to be loud, that it had to come with drama, with late-night whispers, suspicious phone calls, some guy named Ryan who suddenly exists in your wife's life way too much for a normal human being. That kind of betrayal at least feels recognizable. You can point at it. You can scream about it. You can say, "This is what happened." But I learned something over the last few months. Sometimes the worst betrayal isn't messy. Sometimes it's clean, silent, administrative. Sometimes your spouse doesn't cheat. They just quietly begin erasing you from your own life, like you were a typo in their story. And the cruel part? You don't even notice it happening until the ink is already dry. If you asked me a year ago, I would have told you we were fine. Not perfect. No marriage is perfect, but normal. We had routines. We had inside jokes. We had those lazy evenings where you sit on the couch, half watching something stupid, half arguing about what to eat tomorrow. She used to steal food off my plate like it was her personal love language. She used to laugh at my dumb sarcasm. She used to look at me like I was her husband, not like a roommate, not like an inconvenience. But then something shifted. It didn't shift all at once. It wasn't like she woke up one morning and said, "Good morning, I no longer respect you." No, it was slower than that. Like a thermostat being turned down 1 degree at a time, until one day you realize you've been freezing for weeks. It started with words. She began speaking differently, using the kind of language people pick up when they start watching too many self-help clips narrated by women who live alone in luxury apartments and call it healing. "I'm working on my boundaries. I'm learning independence. I'm trying not to be someone's half anymore." The first time she said it, I remember blinking at her like, "Okay, sure, that sounded healthy. Who doesn't want boundaries? Who doesn't want to feel like their own person?" So I nodded like a supportive husband, because that's what you do. But even then, something about it felt off. Not the words themselves. The way she delivered them. Cold, polished, like she wasn't sharing a feeling. She was making an announcement, like I was an employee, and she was informing me that the workplace culture was evolving. At first, I honestly thought it was just a phase. And listen, marriage is full of phases. People reinvent themselves all the time. Sometimes it's yoga, sometimes it's a new diet, sometimes your spouse suddenly decides they're into pottery, buys 30 pounds of clay, makes one ugly bowl, then never touches it again. This felt like that. A personality hobby. A new era she'd get tired of. So I didn't panic. I didn't accuse. I didn't dramatize. I even joked about it. One night she said very seriously, "I'm learning not to center my life around a man." And I smiled and said, "That's good. Center it around Wi-Fi. That's more reliable anyway." In the past, she would have laughed. She would have rolled her eyes and called me an idiot. This time, she just stared, like she was processing whether humor was still allowed in the new version of her life. That was the first moment I felt something crack, not break, just crack. Then the warmth started leaving. She became busy, always somewhere, always doing something that sounded vaguely important but never had any real details. Meeting, errands, catching up. With who? About what? Where? It was like her life had turned into a corporate calendar event. Meanwhile, when she was home, she wasn't really there. She was on her phone constantly, screen angled away like she was guarding nuclear codes. And I noticed little things. The way she'd stop typing if I walked into the room. The way her smile became polite instead of natural. The way she'd sigh if I asked something simple like, "What time will you be home?" As if my expectation of communication was some oppressive tradition from the 1800s. And then came the new vocabulary. Oh God, the vocabulary. Suddenly everything was emotional labor. Me asking how her day was? Emotional labor? Me suggesting we go out together on a Friday? Pressure? Me wanting to talk about our future? Control? It was honestly impressive. She managed to turn normal marriage behavior into a psychological crime scene. I remember thinking, Are we still married? Or am I being evaluated by a panel of Instagram therapists? And through all of it, I kept telling myself, don't overreact. Don't become the insecure husband stereotype. Don't make this worse. So I stayed calm. I stayed steady. I did what I've always done. I worked, I cooked, I cleaned, I tried to be present, I tried to be supportive, but the more I tried, the more it felt like I was reaching for someone who was already halfway out the door. And the weirdest part? She wasn't angry. Anger would have made sense. Anger would have meant there was still something there. Instead, she was calm. Too calm. The kind of calm people have when they've already made a decision and you just haven't been notified yet. That's what it felt like I was living in a marriage where the ending had already been written, and I was still reading page 1. Then came the dinner, the moment I can't forget. We were sitting at our little table, just the two of us. The apartment was quiet. Quiet in that unsettling way where you can hear the hum of the fridge and suddenly it feels loud. She ate slowly. She looked composed, relaxed, almost satisfied, like someone who knows something you don't. And then she said, casually, as if she was commenting on the weather, "We need to make some adult decisions soon." I paused. Adult decisions. That phrase never means anything good. It never means, let's upgrade the mattress. It means consequences. It means life shifting under your feet. I nodded anyway, trying to stay normal. Sure, I said. Together. Because I still believed in that word, together. I still thought that's how marriages worked. She looked at me then, and she smiled. The kind of smile you give someone when you already have the upper hand. Yeah, she said softly. We'll see. 2 words. That was it. We'll see. But something in me tightened, because I realized in that moment she didn't sound like a partner. She sounded like someone humoring me, like my involvement was optional, like the adult decision was already made, and my role was just to react properly. I went to bed that night staring at the ceiling, feeling something I couldn't name yet. Not fear, not anger, something colder. The sensation of standing in your own home, and suddenly not being sure it's yours anymore. The next day felt normal. And that's the part that still messes with me. Because life doesn't warn you properly when it's about to split in half. There's no soundtrack, no dramatic slow motion. Sometimes you just wake up, drink your coffee, answer a couple emails, and then your marriage quietly dies at 3:17 p.m. in your own living room. I went to work like usual. She kissed me on the cheek before I left. Not a real kiss. More like a polite gesture. Like shaking hands with someone you used to love. "Have a good day," she said. I remember smiling and replying, "You too." Because that's what you do when you're still pretending everything is fine. Work was busy. Meetings, calls, the usual grind. But in the back of my mind, I kept hearing her voice from last night. We need to make some adult decisions soon. I didn't know what that meant, but it sat in my stomach like a stone. I came home earlier than expected. Not because I was suspicious, not because I was checking on her. My last meeting got canceled, and for once I thought, maybe we can actually spend an afternoon together. Maybe whatever weird phase this is will soften if we just exist in the same space again. I unlocked the door quietly. The apartment was still, and the first thing I noticed wasn't her. It was the table. Because on the table, right there in the open, sat a thick folder. Not the kind of folder you use for recipes. Not the kind you use for school papers. This was official. Crisp. Legal looking. The kind of folder that smells like consequences. At first I thought it was something from her work. She had been doing a lot of meetings, after all. But then I saw the words printed in bold across the top page. Sale agreement. I stopped walking. Just froze. My brain did that thing where it tries to stay calm by assuming stupidity. Sale agreement. Okay. Maybe she's helping someone. Maybe it's a mistake. Maybe it's for her friend Claire. Maybe. Then I saw the address. Our address. My throat went dry. I stepped closer like the paper might change if I approached carefully. I picked it up slowly. My hands felt clumsy. The letters were too sharp, too real. Property sale contract. Seller, Amanda H. Pierce. Buyer. I didn't even look at the buyer yet. My eyes locked onto the seller line. Only one name, her name, not ours. Not Amanda and James Pierce, just her. I flipped another page. Signatures, dates, notary stamp. The kind of stamp that says, "This isn't a joke. This isn't a draft. This is happening." My heart wasn't pounding the way it does in movies. It was worse. It was sinking, dropping slowly, like an elevator cable snapping one floor at a time. Because I realized something terrifying. This wasn't about talking. This wasn't about adult decisions. This was about something already in motion. I stood there for a full minute, just staring at the paper. I heard movement in the kitchen, the soft clink of a mug being placed on the counter, then footsteps, and she appeared, calm, relaxed, wearing sweatpants and one of those neutral expressions that makes you feel insane for having emotions. She had a cup of coffee in her hand, like this was just another Tuesday. "Hey," she said casually. I didn't respond. I held up the folder instead. My voice came out slower than I expected, careful, controlled, like I was speaking to someone holding a weapon. "Amanda?" She sipped her coffee. "Yes?" I tapped the paper with my finger. "Why is our apartment in a sale contract?" She blinked once, not shocked, not nervous, just present. Then she said, as calmly as someone announcing the weather, "Because I'm selling it." I stared at her. My brain stalled. "What?" She shrugged slightly. "I'm selling the apartment." I laughed. Not because it was funny, because my body didn't know what else to do. That short, disbelieving sound people make right before they fall apart. "You're..." I stopped and tried again. "You're selling our home?" Her eyes narrowed just a little, like I was being dramatic. "It's not our home?" I felt something snap inside my chest. "What do you mean it's not our home?" She leaned against the doorway, coffee still in hand, completely unbothered. "It's a property, and I'm making a decision." "A decision?" I repeated. My voice rose slightly now. "Amanda, this is something you talk about. This is something we decide together." She sighed. Not a sad sigh. An annoyed sigh. The sigh of someone being inconvenienced. "James." She said my name the way you say someone's name when they're not understanding a simple concept. Like I was slow. "I already decided." The room went very still. I stared at her. "You already decided," I echoed. "Yes." Without me. She didn't even deny it. She didn't even pretend. She just took another sip of coffee and said, "Your opinion doesn't matter." Silence. Absolute silence. I didn't even breathe for a second. Because that sentence didn't feel like an insult. It felt like a door locking. "Excuse me?" I finally said. She tilted her head slightly. "I said your opinion doesn't matter." I stared at her like I'd never seen her before. This woman had slept next to me for years, had smiled at me, had told me she loved me. And she was standing in my kitchen, holding a coffee mug, telling me I didn't matter. Just stating it, like a fact. I forced a laugh again, sharper this time. "Wow." She raised an eyebrow. "What?" I took a slow step forward. "Amanda, you can't just sell our apartment." She shrugged. "I can." "No, you literally can't. It's..." She cut me off. "James, please don't make this into some big emotional thing." I stared. A big emotional thing. She repeated it like she was calming down a child. "It's just an adult decision." That phrase again. Adult decision. Like I was the immature one for wanting a voice in the sale of my own home. My hands trembled slightly, but my voice stayed low. "This is where we live." "For now," she said. My stomach turned. "For now?" She nodded. "I'm moving forward." "And what am I doing?" I asked. She looked at me then. really looked. And for the first time, I saw it. Not anger, not hatred. Something worse. Detachment. Like she had already left. Like she was just finishing paperwork. "I don't know," she said. "That's up to you." I stood there, holding the contract like it was a death certificate. I slowly lowered myself into the chair. Amanda turned and walked back toward the kitchen like we'd just discussed grocery shopping, and I sat there in silence, staring at the pages. Because in that moment, I understood something with terrifying clarity. This wasn't an argument. This wasn't a fight. This was a verdict. She wasn't asking. She wasn't negotiating. She was informing me that I had already been removed. I didn't sleep that night. Not in the dramatic way where you sit up clutching your chest like a heart attack commercial. More like, your body is lying down, but your mind refuses to stop pacing. Amanda went to bed like nothing happened. That part still amazes me. She brushed her teeth. She put on moisturizer. She scrolled through her phone for 10 minutes. Then she turned off the light, rolled over and said, "Good night." Like she hadn't just told me my opinion didn't matter about the roof over our heads. Like she hadn't casually detonated our entire life between sips of coffee. I stared at the ceiling in the dark, listening to her breathing. Steady, peaceful, the breathing of someone who already packed emotionally weeks ago. Meanwhile, my brain was doing backflips. I kept replaying the sentence, "Your opinion doesn't matter." It wasn't even shouted. That would have been easier. No, she said it like she was stating a simple truth. The next morning, I waited until she was in the kitchen again. Same mug, same calm, same irritating aura of someone who believes they've already won. I walked in, slower this time, holding myself together with sheer will. "Amanda," I said. She didn't look up right away. I leaned against the counter. "We're going to talk about yesterday." She exhaled, the kind of exhale that says, "Here we go, the emotional man again." "James." "No," I cut in, still controlled. "You don't get to James me like I'm a toddler who touched the stove." That got her attention. She finally looked up. Her eyes were sharp, but not emotional, like she was watching a case study unfold. I kept my voice steady. "That apartment is in both our names." She tilted her head slightly. And you can't sell it without me." A pause. Then she smiled. Not warmly, more like someone amused by how predictable you are. "Wow," she said softly. "You really went straight to control." I blinked. "Control?" She nodded as if she'd diagnosed me. "This is exactly what I mean." I stared at her. "No, Amanda. This is legality, not control." She sipped her coffee. "You're uncomfortable because you're losing the outcome." I almost laughed. Almost. Because the absurdity was actually impressive. My wife was selling our home behind my back, and somehow the conversation was now about my discomfort. "I'm uncomfortable," I repeated slowly, "because my wife decided to sell our apartment like she was returning a sweater." She shrugged. "I'm choosing myself." There it was, that phrase again. She said it like a spell, like it absolved her of everything. I leaned forward slightly. "You're choosing yourself by selling something we built together?" Her eyes narrowed. "We didn't build it together." I froze. "What?" She set her mug down carefully. "I bought into a life that wasn't mine." I stared at her like she was speaking a foreign language. "This was never my dream, James." I felt my jaw tighten. "Then why did you marry me?" She blinked slowly. "Don't be dramatic." Of course. The favorite word of people actively setting your life on fire. "I'm not being dramatic," I said. "I'm being confused. Because last I checked, we were partners." She scoffed softly. "That's the problem." I held eye contact. "What's the problem?" She crossed her arms. "You always saw us as a unit." "Yes. And I don't want to be a unit anymore." I paused. For a second, I genuinely didn't know what to say. Because what do you even respond to when your spouse starts talking like a motivational poster? So I went with sarcasm. Oh, right, I said. Because being married is basically prison now. She didn't smile. She didn't take the joke. She just stared back like I'd proven her point. This isn't about prison, she said. It's about freedom. Freedom, I repeated. Yes. And where exactly does this freedom take you? I asked. Her lips pressed slightly. That's not your business. I laughed this time. A real laugh. Short, sharp. Not my business? She leaned forward. You don't own me. I stared at her. Amanda, who said I owned you? You act like it, she said calmly. How? I asked, voice rising slightly now. By wanting to be consulted when you sell our home? She nodded, like it was obvious. Yes. I stepped back, shaking my head slowly. This is insane. She didn't flinch. It's growth. I blinked. Selling an apartment behind your husband's back is growth? It's me reclaiming my life. I stared at her for a long moment, and in that silence, something shifted in me. Because I realized she wasn't confused, she wasn't impulsive, she wasn't emotional. She had rehearsed this. Every sentence, every label, every psychological buzzword. Boundaries, freedom, choosing her CLEF, control, toxicity. She had built an entire narrative where she was the brave heroine, and I was the man standing in the doorway of her evolution. I tried one more time. Low voice, quiet. Amanda, we planned a future here. She looked at me like I was talking about childhood imaginary friends. That was your plan? Our plan. No, she corrected softly. Your stability obsession. That one stung. Because stability isn't an insult. It's what grown adults build. But she said it like it was a weakness. You always wanted the safe version of life, she continued. Predictable, comfortable. I stared. And what do you want? Chaos with good lighting? Her eyes flashed. I want more. More what? She hesitated just a fraction. Then, more than this. That was the first real crack. I watched her, carefully. And suddenly all those meetings, all that phone privacy, all that cold calm, clicked into place. This wasn't about independence. This wasn't about boundaries. This was about departure. She wasn't selling an apartment to grow. She was selling it to leave. But she needed to do it in a way that made her the victim. Because if she just said, I don't want this marriage anymore, that would be honest. Instead, she was writing a story where I was the controlling man holding her back, so she could walk away clean. I let out a slow breath, and for the first time, I didn't feel panic. I felt clarity. Cold, sharp clarity. Because I finally understood. She wasn't asking. She wasn't debating. She wasn't even fighting. She was performing. And I was supposed to play the role she wrote for me, the toxic husband, the obstacle. So she could say, I had no choice. I looked at her, calm now. And she mistook my calm for surrender. You'll get over it, she said. I stared back. Yes, I said, I'll get over it, but not in the way you expect. After that conversation, something in me shut off. Not my feelings, not yet. Just the part of me that still believed talking would fix anything. Because you can't reason someone back into respect. And Amanda wasn't confused. She was committed to an exit. So I stopped arguing. She took my silence the wrong way. She walked around the apartment like she'd already won. Calm, light, almost cheerful. Like she'd removed a burden from her life and expected applause. Meanwhile, I started noticing what I'd been ignoring for months. Her phone always face down. The instant locking when I entered a room. The meetings that required lip gloss and perfume. The vague answers. The way every normal question turned into a lecture about me being controlling. I went back to the sale contract when she wasn't home and actually read it like an adult. The dates hit me first. This wasn't something she decided yesterday. The process started a month ago. A full month. She'd been doing this while eating dinner with me, while saying goodnight, while letting me think we were still a team. That didn't make me angry. It made me sick. Because cheating is impulsive. This was paperwork, planning, intent. Then I found the card. It was in the mail pile, tucked under junk like it didn't matter. Just her name on the envelope. Inside, one line. Congrats on your new beginning. And a name at the bottom. Evan. Not a friend I'd heard of. Not a co-worker I remembered. Just Evan. My brain went quiet in that dangerous way where you stop feeling and start cataloging. When she got home, I tested it. Not a confrontation, a probe. Long day? I asked. She shrugged. Yeah, a lot going on. I nodded, keeping it casual. So, Evan. She froze for half a second. Not long enough for her to admit anything. Just long enough for the truth to show its face. Then she recovered. What? I saw a card, I said. Congrats on your new beginning. She laughed, small, dismissive. Oh my God, that's nothing. Nothing, I repeated. It's from a friend, she said, already annoyed. What friend? Her eyes narrowed. James? Seriously? There it was. The pivot. Make me look unreasonable. Make me the problem. He supports me, she added, like that explained everything. And he knows you're married? I asked. Her jaw tightened. This is exactly what I mean. You always make it about control. I just looked at her. For the first time, I didn't feel the urge to defend myself. I felt clarity. No, I said quietly. This is exactly what I mean. She stared. I held the card in my hand like evidence. You didn't sell an apartment, I said. You sold the idea that I was still your husband. She didn't answer right away. She looked away first, and that was my answer. That night, I lay awake realizing something colder. The apartment wasn't the betrayal. It was the first step of her new life. And she'd been building it for a month, while I still thought I had a wife. Amanda thought my silence meant I was finally accepting it. She moved around the apartment with this calm confidence, like she'd already written the ending. One morning, she even asked, almost suspicious, So, are you okay? I smiled. I'm great. That unsettled her, because calm isn't surrender. Calm is calculation. That afternoon, I left work early and went to a lawyer. I slid the contract across the desk. The lawyer barely needed a minute. She tried to sell jointly owned property without your signature? Yes. She gave a dry laugh. That's not independence. That's illegal. I exhaled. So she can't do it? No, she said simply. Not without you. The deal can't close. A notary will stop it immediately. For the first time in days, something clicked into place. Amanda wasn't holding all the power. She was just acting like she was. The lawyer leaned back. Do you want to save the marriage or protect yourself? I thought of her voice. Your opinion doesn't matter. I thought of the card. Congrats on your new beginning. And I realized the marriage was already being sold too. I want to protect what's mine, I said. The lawyer nodded. Then we file an injunction, and you start preparing for divorce. That night, Amanda came home light, almost cheerful. I spoke to the realtor, she said. Things are moving fast. I looked up. She paused, annoyed. You're not going to react? I met her eyes. I'm reacting, just not the way you hoped. Her expression tightened. James, don't make this ugly. There it was, as if ugliness began only when I refused to be erased quietly. I smiled faintly. You made it ugly the moment you signed without me. I did what I had to do, she snapped. No, I said calmly. You did what you wanted. She stared at me, searching for panic. There was none. And for the first time, I saw something flicker behind her confidence. Uncertainty. Because she didn't have a script for a husband who didn't beg. She grabbed her phone and stood up. I'm not doing this conversation. I nodded. Good, because I'm not doing conversations anymore. She froze. What's that supposed to mean? It means, I said quietly, this is about consequences now. She walked away, tense, and I sat there, calm, with a folder of my own. Documents, dates, proof. Amanda thought I'd stay quiet, thought I'd fold. But she forgot one thing. I wasn't a background character in her reinvention, and the next adult decision was going to be mine. She treated the closing day like a victory lap. That morning, she moved through the apartment with that polished calm again, hair done, outfit a little too sharp for just paperwork. She didn't ask if I was coming, because in her head, I was already gone. I just hadn't accepted my role yet. Right before she left, she paused by the door and said almost kindly, "Try to be mature today. Don't embarrass yourself." I smiled. "Don't worry," I said. "I won't." She took that as agreement. It wasn't. I didn't rush. I didn't pace. I didn't spiral. I dressed like I was going to a meeting I couldn't miss, because I was. On the drive over, I kept hearing her sentence in my head, the one that started this whole thing. "Your opinion doesn't matter." Funny how a person can say something so casually and not realize it's a switch. Say it once, and you teach someone how to live without you. The notary office was exactly what you'd expect. Neutral walls, polite smiles, the scent of cheap air freshener trying to cover stress. There were chairs lined up like a waiting room for consequences. Amanda was already there, and she wasn't alone. With a man I'd never seen in my life. Mid-30s, neat haircut, confident posture, the kind of guy who thinks being calm makes him important. He stood close enough to Amanda that it wasn't an accident. When she saw me, her smile turned tight. Like she was irritated I had the audacity to show up in my own life. The man glanced at me like I was a minor inconvenience. Amanda leaned toward him and whispered something. He smirked. That smirk did something to me. Not rage, not jealousy, just confirmation. So this was the new beginning. I walked in calmly and nodded at the receptionist. "Morning?" Amanda stepped toward me, keeping her voice low, sweet, dangerous. "What are you doing here?" I looked at her. "I live here too, remember?" Her eyes flashed. "James, don't start." "I'm not starting," I said. "I'm finishing." She tightened her jaw. The man beside her shifted, like he was about to say something. I didn't even look at him. He wasn't the main problem. He was just the proof. We were called in. The notary was polite, professional, and clearly used to people pretending this kind of meeting is just business. Papers were laid out. Pens were placed. Smiles were practiced. Amanda sat like a queen signing a decree. The man sat next to her like a reward. I sat across from them like a problem they didn't expect to have. The notary flipped through the documents and then paused. Just a slight pause. Then he looked up. "Where is the husband's signature?" Amanda's face didn't change immediately. It took a second to register, like her brain couldn't process a reality where rules applied to her. "My... what?" she said. The notary remained calm. "This is marital property, yes? The spouse must sign?" Amanda's eyes flicked to me, sharp and furious. I kept my expression neutral. She forced a laugh, quick and false. "He's being difficult." The notary didn't laugh. "I'm not asking about emotion," he said. "I'm asking about legal consent." Amanda's voice dropped, controlled but strained. "We don't need him." The notary blinked once. "Yes," he said. "You do." That was the moment the room shifted. It went from Amanda's adult decision to Amanda's miscalculation. She turned to me, still trying to keep the mask on. "Sign it," she said quietly. "Don't be petty." I leaned back slightly. "No." Her eyes widened. The man next to her finally spoke, voice low, arrogant. "Come on, man. Don't do this." I looked at him for the first time, just once, and smiled. "This has nothing to do with you," I said. His smirk faded. Amanda's voice sharpened. "James, you're humiliating me." I nodded slowly. "Good. She flinched like I'd slapped her. The notary cleared his throat, uncomfortable now. "Sir, are you refusing to sign?" "I'm refusing to participate in fraud," I said calmly, and reached into my folder. I slid papers across the table, one by one. An injunction request, notification to the notary, a formal objection to the sale, the first draft of divorce filings and asset division paperwork. The notary's expression changed immediately. The professional version of, "Oh." Amanda stared at the papers like they were written in another language. "What is this?" she whispered. I met her eyes. "This is my opinion," I said. She went pale with anger. "You can't do this." I gave a small, almost tired shrug. "You said my opinion didn't matter," I replied. "So I stopped giving you one at home. I brought it here instead." Her hands trembled slightly as she grabbed the papers, scanning them like she could undo them by looking hard enough. The man beside her leaned in, reading over her shoulder. His face tightened. He wasn't smiling anymore. Amanda looked up at me, voice shaking now, the mask finally cracking. "You're trying to ruin me." I let that sit for a second. Then I said quietly, "No, I'm just refusing to be erased." She swallowed. "You're doing this because you're bitter." I almost laughed. "No," I said. "I'm doing this because I'm awake." The notary spoke carefully. "Ma'am, without the spouse's signature and with these documents presented, this transaction cannot proceed." Amanda's eyes darted around the room like she expected someone to rescue her, like the universe would step in and say, "Actually, your husband doesn't count." But the universe didn't show up. Only the law did. And for once, it was on my side. Amanda stood up so fast her chair scraped the floor. "This is not over," she hissed. I stood too, calm. "It is," I said. "You just didn't get to choose the ending alone." She looked at the man beside her, then back at me, panic and rage mixing into something ugly. For the first time in months, she didn't look free. She looked trapped by the very rules she assumed didn't apply. I picked up my folder, not rushed, not shaking, just steady. As I turned to leave, she threw one last line at me, desperate now. "You're going to regret this." I paused at the door and glanced back. "No," I said. "I'm going to recover from it." And I walked out. Outside, the air felt different, like I'd been holding my breath for months and didn't realize it. A few weeks later, the sale was officially dead. The realtor stopped calling. The notary filed the objection. Amanda's new beginning collapsed under the boring weight of reality. Laws don't care about empowerment speeches. She tried to fight it at first. Threats, tears, blame. Then silence. Divorce moved faster than I expected. Not because it was easy, because she was already halfway gone. Evan disappeared the moment things stopped looking romantic and started looking legal. We sold the apartment properly in the end. Not her way, the right way. The proceeds were divided exactly as the court ordered. Amanda didn't get her clean escape. She got accountability. And me? I didn't win. I just stopped losing myself. People ask if it hurt. Of course it did. But the strangest part is this. She thought selling our home would erase me. Instead, it was the moment I finally remembered I existed.